I am really excited about today's topic because it means that I get to talk about my favorite Marvel character, Doctor Strange. I really like the way that Doctor Strange is implemented in this game, and there's a lot to like about the character as he has a lot of very unique things about him to add to the way that the game works and how the dynamics of any given game in any game mode works. There's just a lot of really fun ways that his kit is implemented and used. That being said, he's a very ability-heavy character, and this barely scratches the surface of the abilities that he has. Now, you might think with a very limited list such as this, that there's not a whole lot to draw from. But that's where you'd be mistaken, because in looking at the mastery of magic and mystical equipment usage, there is a very expansive well from which various different abilities could be drawn. And we've got a lot of really good representation in that, from the standard ranged attack that he has in the Daggers of Danak to the Cloak of Levitation, which allows him to float around. I mean, if it was lore accurate, he'd be able to fly basically forever, but there's reasons why that can't be done. You have Maelstrom of Madness, which is a very good area of impact. And then, of course, the quintessential Paragram of Pharrella, where he can teleport to anywhere on the map at will, as long as he's not on cooldown, I guess I should say. But it makes sense why that particular ability is on as lengthy of a cooldown as it is, because it's basically game-breaking in more ways than one, both the demand on the system as well as being able to jump back into the fight at basically whatever point you'd like to. But there's many a different spell or magic item that he usually uses that he doesn't have implemented in his current kit. And so the ability that I would really like to see added to Doctor Strange, and some people might dislike this particular suggestion, but there's precedent for establishing it, I think that it would be really, really good and fun and thematic to add the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak to his kit. Now, the way that that works is he calls on the entity Cyttorak, which, fun fact, is the same character who gives Juggernaut his powers, and basically there's an energy ribbon that binds to a target and restrains them. Within the comics, that ability is nigh unbreakable, and you don't want to have something that lasts forever. So realistically, this would be some kind of ability that would lock on to a character and then bind them in place for a second or two. I'm thinking a little bit longer than the Penny Stun, but not quite as long as the Hulk's Exile. So yeah, maybe a second and a half on the time there. I think it should be an ability that has a bit of a forgiving area of effect on it, where in casting the ability, you don't have to have your cursor directly on the enemy, but it can still be blocked by shields and other things if somebody responds to it. And I think having a projectile speed somewhat similar to the Daggers of Danak would be good in terms of allowing that to travel to and bind around the enemy that it's targeting. And that's one of the things that Doctor Strange is missing in his kit, especially when compared to other tanks in the game, is he just doesn't have an ability that stuns any of his opponents or locks them in place outside of his ultimate. But what do you think? Is that something that you think would be an appropriate addition to his kit? It wouldn't surprise me at all if at some point in the future, when hopefully Juggernaut gets added to the game, he's given that as sort of a team-up ability, since the root of the ability is from the same entity. But I think that it would be really cool to see that added as a part of his base kit instead of being a team-up reliance. So let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll be back to talk about the next Vanguard tomorrow.